track here. Okay, so creating clarity. Creating clarity. When I get confused over what I want, and I think that most people are going to be able to relate to me on this one. There are certain circumstances that when presented, I automatically just shut them down. Like, that'll never happen, because every time that I have gone to him with this kind of situation, he has just shot it down. He's never going to be open to it. It's never going to happen. It's just not a possibility. Where that really comes from is from, you have one instance where you get negative feedback, or what I like to say, because I don't really like to look at things as right or wrong or good or bad, I look at it as in alignment with my preferences or out of alignment with my preferences. So whenever I get feedback that's out of alignment with my preferences and doesn't really make me feel all that good inside, I have a tendency, because my brain, again, trying to keep me safe and trying to avoid pain at all costs, it will keep me from trying something again in fear that I'm going to get that same feedback. And since I don't want that feedback, I'll just avoid the whole scenario. So when somebody comes to me, he's like, oh, well, why don't you try this to grow your practice? No. I did that before, and nobody showed up, and nobody was really interested in it, so yeah, I'm not going to go through that again. When I found that I couldn't even, again, if you remember how I said earlier, I believe that our thoughts become things. And I hear all this stuff about these positive affirmations and visualizations. Oh, just take the time to visualize it, and then you will attract it right into your life. And I didn't really get it, because again, I kind of had this superficial layer of affirmations and the superficial layer of visualization, but then I had all these stories that went 30 years deep lying underneath them that were screaming every time that I pictured this visualization, that's never going to happen. I just kind of hear this voice off in the distance. So then I started realizing there were certain circumstances that immediately I was saying, no, that's never going to happen. Well, if I don't believe that it's ever going to happen, and in fact, I can't even picture it in my mind that it could ever happen, but it's something that I really, really, really want to happen, how can I ever bring it into existence if I can't even picture it? I can't even picture it. So I started taking this vision letter writing technique, and I started doing that with pretty much everything. So when I get that initial, that's never going to happen, feeling, sensation, I actually picture it. I picture going to my husband and saying, hey, doesn't this sound great? And I picture him going, no, that doesn't sound great. We're not going to do it. If that's all that I can picture, well, if what I hold in my mind is what's being created around me, then I need to start with that picture that I have in my mind. And I better be able to believe it to the point that I believe this other picture that I've been holding on to. Now see, I've experienced this past picture. This is a memory that I'm holding on to. I've seen it once, twice, a dozen times, however many times, to where that's an ingrained memory, an ingrained picture in my mind. Well, I think that memories are a good thing, but I also feel like they can be kind of a disservice. Because a memory, okay, I'm going to try to break this down as simply as possible. There's a lot of things that are happening around us that we can't perceive with our human body. There's different sounds, there's different light waves of energy, there's all this stuff that's happening around us that we don't perceive. You think about those really high-pitched sounds that dogs can pick up on but humans can't hear, that kind of thing. Or you think about a radio station and you don't know that those radio waves are there until you tune into that station. Well, it doesn't mean that they're not floating all around us all the time. Even the fact that I can pick this up on a feed and blast it out on the internet, we don't actually physically see that video going from my computer over to my friends in Canada and being downloaded. No, it all happens kind of behind the scenes. But it doesn't mean that there's not something there that's making it work, right? So there's limitations that we have just being in this human form. Couple that with, if we go back again to some of my previous teachings, our mind eliminates, doesn't perceive, doesn't take into the consciousness things that aren't a threat. So a scenario that I always like to use, if you think about the clothes that you're wearing right now, you don't feel where your clothes are touching you on every square inch of your body, but it doesn't mean that your clothes aren't there. Your mind has just kind of weeded that out as it's not important, so no need to waste energy on focusing that sensation. Because I mean, think about it, gosh, we'd just be on physical overload. We'd fry our sockets if we could really pick up on every sensation that's happening in the body. You take pain, for example. We perceive like 10%, our nervous system perceives 10% of what's actually going on. Because if it really registered all those aches and pains and all the dysfunction that's going on at all times, we wouldn't be able to move. So we're limited by our human capacity. We throw the brain into the scenario, so the brain's filtering out anything that's not a threat and is holding on to the things that are. I don't know about y'all, but it's a lot easier for me to retrieve a negative memory than a positive memory. I hold on to all those names that I was called in school, and I hold on to all those mean things that my sister said to me, and I hold on to all those fights and all those nasty words that come out. I can pull that right to the surface a lot of times. But then you ask me, well, what's a good memory about this? It's kind of like, well, I know I got some. Let me think about that. Oh, okay, yeah, there was this one time where it was really happy and good. The mind doesn't hold on to that feel-goodness sometimes because it's not a threat. So, again, we're limited by our perception. We're limited by what our mind filters out. We can only tap into a small percentage of it. Then, think about 30 years of experience. How much of that do I hold on to with my memories? A fraction. So I'm limited by what I can see at the time that it happens. I'm limited by what I observe because my mind's only going to pick on things that are a perceived threat. And then I'm only going to hold on to a small fraction of it. So memories, again, while they can serve you to not touch a hot stove, they can also kind of trick you into thinking that things happen differently than how they actually occurred. Because you're going to perceive in that moment that which you're on the level of receiving, that which you believe to be true. And a lot of these perceptions, they started when we were really, really young. Being a child and being told no, or be quiet, or you don't know what you're talking about, or you will never do that. You know, these little things that were said to us, a lot of times by people who loved us, who just didn't want us to see us get hurt and trying to help us avoid that pain for us. We start to hold on to them and carry them through the years and through the years and through the years. And then we find ourselves 30 years later making decisions that would have been the same as a 5-year-old or an 8-year-old child. So these memories of what's going to happen, when I really got that, when I was like, gosh, so much is happening all the time. I'm perceiving such a small point and then part of it, and then I'm carrying that small portion that's kind of dwindling away as time goes on. Then really, why invest so much emotions into the past? If I'm constantly picturing what happened in the past, and my thoughts affect my future, my thoughts create reality. What I think about, I bring about. If I'm thinking about the past, I'm going to be taking the past into the future. I'm going to be poisoning the future with my past thinking. If I tried something 5 times and failed 5 times, but it's what I have to get over to get to where I'm going in the future, chances are I won't even go back and revisit that because I just view myself as a failure. I don't think about, oh, you know, it's been 15 years later and I'm more equipped and I'm more efficient and, you know, all these good things, all these reasons why I should. My mind's just going to go straight back to, no. Don't bring up that topic because last time you brought up that topic, so-and-so behaved this way or so-and-so got mad at me. So when I think about something that I want that's different than what's happened in my past and that past image comes up, I've realized if I don't change that picture, it's just going to recreate itself. And it might not recreate itself identically, but the essence of it is going to recreate itself. So I decided, well, gosh, if I can't even picture my husband being excited about a vacation that I want to take, if I can't even picture it, how is that ever going to happen? So I would use this same vision technique, and I would say, okay, forget about what I think I know, and let's get to what I really, really want. If I could have anything that I want, what would it look like? And then I'll sit down, and I'll literally sit down with a piece of paper in front of my computer and type it up because I want to create a scene, a picture, a story. I want to create this idea that is just as strong and just as believable and just as deeply rooted as my past experiences. So I'll sit down and say, okay, I want to go on a vacation with my husband, and I want us to go here. And so I'll come up with like this little snippet of him and I going there and having fun and what it feels like and the lightness of it and how we're having fun and whatever it is, the beautiful landscape. And it doesn't have to be like, a 5-day long picture, it can be just a few seconds. But I will write it out to where I feel that emotion and like I get excited about it. Like if that was, I just say, if this could really happen, what would I have it look like? And I'll just write it out in a paragraph or a page, whatever it takes. And then I'll get that so clear so that whenever the thought of a vacation comes up, instead of that's never going to happen, or even if that pops up first, then I can immediately say, I create my reality. So I'm going to picture what I do want to happen instead of what I don't want to happen. And even if it doesn't go any further than that, isn't that much better than picturing that worst case scenario over and over again? Doesn't it feel, to me, it feels better. To me, it feels better picturing what I want than picturing what I don't want. And that's what I would do. I would just get it so clear that I just believe that it's absolutely possible because I believe I create my reality. I believe I can attract to me anything that I want. But if my thoughts are what is attracting these things into my life, and I'm constantly thinking about what I don't want, it's no wonder that I have a nice mix of things that I don't want, along with the mix of things that I do want happening in my life. So that's definitely one of my little techniques. And to really get this drilled into the mind, I think it's good to, what I like to do and what I encourage everybody to do, and I really just haven't seen an instance that this doesn't work. I believe that 80% of what we write down will come into existence. It might not come into existence today or tomorrow, but in the long run, if you write it down, it's going to happen. I believe that I believe in speaking into my future, speaking what it is that I want, and writing down what it is that I want. Because if it's just a thought that's floating around in my head, that's all that it is. But if I write it down, I say it out loud, I start telling everybody, this is what I pictured, this is how it's going to be. And I start reading this vision statement. I'll read it every day. From what I have learned, we are closest to our subconscious mind 7 minutes before we go to sleep at night, in that first 7 minutes of the day. I don't know who did that research, look it up yourself, this is what I've been told, so I'm going with it. Makes sense to me, because when we're in that dreamlike state, that's when we're in our subconscious mind. So 7 minutes, the last 7 minutes of the day, the first 7 minutes of the morning. So what I would do is that I would write out my concise little paragraph that invokes all these emotions and really paints that crystal clear picture for me. And then I'd read it at night before I go to bed. And when my eyes would open in the morning, I would read it again. I would set an alarm on my phone to come up a couple of times during the day so that I could read it again. And that is when I really, really, really got the essence of what all these mentors were talking about, visualization. It's not just sitting there in your life that you're fully bought into as reality and then dreaming of a future. I mean, that's part of it. But it's really getting those emotions and really getting that picture clear so that it consumes your mind and overrides or weeds out or eliminates any of those thoughts that are going to be counterproductive. Because in saying this is what I want, this is what I want, this is what I want, but you're simultaneously saying I don't want to deal with this and I don't want to deal with that, I don't want to deal with that, you're sending out mixed messages. So that's where that clarity is key. So anything that I want in my life, especially if it's like, well, I would love to have that happen, but that's never going to happen. Those kind of scenarios, no matter how grandiose, no matter how involved, no matter how radical, I just get really, really clear on what that will be like. And I really like to set a deadline on it because I just think that that makes it more real. It's one thing to say, oh, one day I'll have this, one day I'll have this, one day I'll have this, but one day will never come. But if you say March 31st I have this, and you're telling yourself you're reading that every morning, every night, however you would write the letter. I like to write my letters to God because, that makes sense to me in my mind. So I would just write, Dear God, I'm so grateful. Today is March 31st, and I'm so grateful for the abundance that's come into my life. This is what my life looks like. This is everything that's been going on. So it would be integrating that date, and then it would allow my subconscious mind to take over. And it would allow everything that I need to be put into my path. Now, with that being said, with the deadline, The deadline is just kind of a marking point. It's just kind of a marking point, and it's not something to get attached to. And actually, the whole vision statement itself is kind of a marking point and not something to really get attached to. So I have found myself about a week out from whatever vision statement I've created. I'll be about a week out, and I'm like not close to achieving what it is that I want to achieve. So then it allows me to kind of take a step back. And when I don't see it unfolding, because again, you know, what I'm asking for, I guess I should add this onto the vision statement too. I believe that we get everything that we ask for or something better. So everything's going to come into my life or something better. Because my mind might think that this one thing's the answer, but remember, because we're not Lord and Master of the universe, we're not the one that's in charge of everything, and we don't see everything else that's happening outside of our lives and how we fit into that big puzzle. Just because my mind thinks that this one thing's the best, I might not even realize that that scenario would bring about some devastation in areas that I'm not ready to deal with, or don't want to deal with, or don't need to deal with, and it'll bring about something better. So I know, like for example, just even wanting to go to massage school, I had it so in my head. I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. But, you know, I was trying to find which school I like. Okay, this is the school that I like, and this is the program that I like, and this is the one that I've got to have. So this is what I need to do. And then I take it back over to my employers at a time and say, hey, this is the best program. This is what I want to do. This is it. But I have to leave 5 minutes early. Is that okay? And they say no. Well, if I stay attached saying this is what it has to look like, then I could miss the opportunity to experience another program, which would lead me to meeting somebody who could alter the entire path of the rest of my future. So understanding that, because again, if my mind can think of the how, it hasn't thought big enough. I stayed attached. So I get too clear on what I want. I know I'm going to get that or something better. And when it gets close to the end, if it's not all falling into place, and just about, I would say at least half of what it is that I write out is actually starting to take place all the time whenever I get close to the end. I remember 80% of what we write down is going to come true. So, and really, if I'm going to have all my wildest dreams come true, do I care if that happens tomorrow or 2 years from now? Not really. I don't care if it's going to take me 5 years instead of 2 years to do something, or 2 years instead of 2 months to do something. If I still ultimately get it, that's all that I really care about. So I get clear on what I want. I know that it's coming to me or something better. And if it gets down close to the end and I'm not seeing these pieces fall into place just like my mind says that they're going to, that's when I take a step back and I look at this and I say, okay, what is the essence of what I want? Because remember, it's not the actual physical thing. It's the experience that that physical thing brings about. So I would say to myself, okay, I picture my husband and I on this vacation, and it's 2 weeks from where I pictured us leaving. We don't have the finances together to do it. I haven't asked off from work. Whatever the things are that's holding us back, where it looks like, from my perspective, it's not going to come together, I would say, okay, what is the essence of this thing that I want? The essence is that my husband and I spend time together, and that we're connected, and that we're supporting one another, and that we have focused attention on the same thing, and that we're there being together. So if that's the essence, can I have those things? Do I care if we're in the mountains or at the beach or at our house? No. I want that experience. That fun, carefree, shutting out the rest of the world, him and I connecting. If that's what I really am looking for, and I don't care where that really takes place, this is just what my mind came up with at the time, then I can take that essence and I can create that now. I can let go of what my mind said it had to look like, and I can just focus on creating that experience no matter what. Now, if I really want to go to Paris and say that's what I had pictured in my mind, I can go to Paris later. That's another experience. Why do I want to go to Paris? For the experience of actually going to Paris, for having that multicultural experience. So just getting to the essence of what it is that I want, I can let go of that tight grip that I have on having it have to be exactly how my mind pictures it, or else I'm a failure. Then I can really get to the essence of the experience, and I can find that same fulfillment. So even if the black and white scenario that I wrote out on my sheet of paper doesn't come about, the essence of what I think that experience would be like could still happen. And I have found that if I can have that emotional experience, then I feel just as fulfilled as if that black and white scenario happened. And I've also found that when I get obsessed and focused on, it's got to be that black and white experience that my mind created, what do you think I could possibly be doing? I could be not paying attention to how I'm connecting with my husband. I could be missing these little moments of time that we could be spending together and recreating that same experience, because I have my blinders on and I'm focused on that one thing, because my mind says that it needs to be that way. Well, my mind's not in charge. And my mind's got me this far, and if I want to get to the next level, I have to get out of my mind. I have to let my mind go. I have to surrender what my mind is telling me and allow the other forces that I can't see go to work in my life. What I like about this is that you can try it for yourself. Pick something, try it for yourself. Pour your heart into it, pour yourself into it, give it 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, whatever it is that you want to invest in, and get your own results. You may find that this isn't for you, but I believe, because I have experienced it myself, that when I was operating how I was operating before, I was getting different results that I wasn't so crazy about. And now I operate in this mode, and I feel more fulfillment and more peace and more bliss and more happiness, and I experience the emotions that I'm really looking for. And I'm just more detached from how it has to come about. So now when I get those grandiose ideas, I can say, this is my vision, and this is what I want. And I can have full faith that it's coming to me. I can have full faith in my ability to handle whatever obstacles come across my way. And I can open myself up to all these different opportunities that I would have shut myself down to before, which can ultimately lead me to all these different new experiences that I didn't even imagine for myself. Because like I said, you always get what you want or something better. And a lot of times, really, if you want proof of this, look back in your own life. I know I can look back in my own life. And kind of like how I said with the massage school scenario, you know, having my sights set on this program with this school, and then it worked out where I ended up having to go to a different school with a different schedule and a different curriculum. That actually served me better in the long run, but I wouldn't have known it until 5 years out and practicing